carbs are not the problem. It's the ultra processed foods that we eat. And again, if you're eating sources of protein that are ultra processed, that's not going to be great for your health. If you're eating sources of fat that are ultra processed, it's not going to be good for you. It's the ultra processing of foods, the refining of foods that strips out all the nutrients and everything that your body craves. That's the problem. Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about carbs. And the question we're going to ask is, are carbs bad for you? So this is Mark Johnson, your fitness ambassador from Bounce Pep and the youngest son of Bill Johnson. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you if you have not subscribed but you're watching. I do appreciate the fact that you are giving me your time, and I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and if you share this video. So carbs, they get a bad rap, and you hear a lot about low carb diets and this, that, and the third, and cut carbs out. And if you want to lose weight, you shouldn't be eating so many carbs because carbs are the enemy. But I really want to explain something very, very simple. Carbs themselves are not inherently bad for you. Carbs are one of the 3 macronutrients. So carbohydrates, protein, and fat, right? Your body needs all 3 of those things. So none of them are inherently bad for you. The question is, what form are you getting your carbs in? Because carbs are actually good for you. Now, in its simplest terms, a carbohydrate is basically a sugar, okay? When you just break it down to its simple building blocks, carbohydrates are sugars. You have different ones, lactose, fructose, a bunch of different types, but essentially carbohydrates are sugars, and your body needs sugars for energy. So carbohydrates typically are going to be found in fruits and vegetables, legumes meaning things like beans, peas, things like that. So legumes is kind of an umbrella term, but beans, peas, chickpeas, stuff like that, right? And then nuts, of course, and seeds. That's where you're going to get, your carbohydrates from. And of course, grains. So wheat, barley, oats, things like that. Those are going to be your sources of carbohydrates. And those are natural sources of carbohydrates. If you eat whole foods, so if you go and eat a whole carrot, for instance, that carrot is going to have carbohydrates, and it's going to also have fiber, right? And as long as you don't put it into some industrial manufacturing process and completely change the nature, of the food itself, then you're going to be getting essentially whole food carbs. And those carbs are great for you. There's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with carbohydrates. So when you hear people say, you have to cut down on carbs, what they're really saying is you need to cut down on ultra processed foods. And understand something, ultra processed makes pretty much anything worse. Okay, so if your protein source is ultra processed, it's not going to be as good for you as a whole foods based protein source. Same thing for fats, same thing for carbohydrates. So the real issue is the ultra processed foods that so many of us eat. A lot of us, you probably have family members and friends who most of what they eat actually is highly or ultra processed. Okay, and that simply means that it's not like something where they go to the grocery store and they shop and they buy fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and fish and everything. And they bring it home and they prepare a nice meal by themselves with those ingredients, just with their own bare hands, making a nice healthy meal. A lot of times what people are doing is they're going and getting these pre-packaged meals, or they go to, fast food restaurants, right? So if you're getting your carbohydrates through those types of foods, okay? Or for instance, if you're getting, let's say you eat a lot of pasta, right? Well, white pasta that you buy in the supermarket is basically a highly processed food. So what they do is, they strip all of the fiber out of the original plant product, whatever it is, if it's wheat or whatever it is. If you're eating white bread, they started off with wheat and then they stripped all of the fiber and nutrients out of that during the refining process, okay? So when you eat something like white bread or white pasta or something like that, you're getting those carbohydrates that have been stripped of their nutrients and fiber. And those are the ones, when people say you cut down carbs, that's really what they're talking about, is they're talking about those ultra processed foods, right? Okay, they just happen to fall into the category of being carbohydrates. But carbohydrates in and of themselves are good for you. Your body needs carbohydrates. So this is why I highly recommend all the time that you eat things like just freshly prepared salads, something that you make with your own bare hands. You get some fresh ingredients, go to the supermarket. Anybody can do this. Make a salad, because you're going to be getting those carbohydrates. You're going to be getting the fiber is very, very important. Okay. You're going to be getting fiber in your diet. So carbs and fiber, they're kind of a pair. And I want you to understand something. One of the problems with the ultra processed foods, and specifically the carbs, is that when you eat them, because they lack the fiber, then all of that sugar it's absorbed into your bloodstream very, very quickly, okay? And that is one of the drivers of things like the onset of type 2 diabetes. So when you're eating like that all the time and you're constantly flooding your bloodstream with sugar, after a while, your pancreas, which produces insulin, it's going to try to keep producing insulin to keep up with all that sugar that you're putting in your body. But the cells in your body can actually start to become resistant to insulin. It's like they get fed up and they start saying, I don't want any more insulin, and they start to reject the insulin. And the insulin is the thing that allows the cells in your body to absorb the sugars that you're ingesting. So once the cells in your body start to reject the insulin, then you get this buildup of sugar in your bloodstream, and that's essentially how you end up, with type 2 diabetes, okay? And that's simply your cells saying, I can't, this is too much. I just can't take all of this doggone insulin, and then you become insulin resistant. So your cells actually, it's like a mutiny. Your cells they just protest, okay? And you don't want to be in that situation. But if you're getting your carbohydrates through whole foods, you're going to be much less likely, probably not very likely at all, to face that kind of a problem, because the fiber does another thing. It moves very slowly through your stomach and your small intestines. And what that does is it makes you feel full, right? So that prevents you from overeating, because when you eat something with a lot of fiber in it, you get those nutrients, you get that fiber, and because it's moving through your stomach and your small intestines, and ultimately, you poop it out, because fiber is indigestible. So, fiber has to be ejected from the body. So ultimately, you're going to poop it out, but it moves through very slowly, and that's what creates that satiety. It sates your appetite. And so you don't feel like you need to eat like 10 apples. You can eat one apple and that's like enough. Whereas if you're eating donuts, you ever notice how you have donuts and you just want to keep eating more and more and more and more? It's because the dough, it doesn't have any fiber. The fiber's been all stripped out. And so you get that sugar rush and you're just getting the sugar, and it's just flooding your system very quickly because it doesn't have the fiber to slow down the absorption of sugar into your system. And also it doesn't have the fiber to make you feel full. So it's kind of a double whammy. You're eating more and more and more. You don't have the fiber to slow down the sugar. And so you're also just flooding your system with sugar. And so you're kind of getting fat and getting diabetes at the same time. So I want you to understand that, again, carbs are not the problem. It's the ultra processed foods that we eat. And again, if you're eating sources of protein that are ultra processed, that's not going to be great for your health. If you're eating sources of fat that are ultra processed, it's not going to be good for you. It's the ultra processing of foods, the refining of foods that strips out all the nutrients and everything that your body craves. That's the problem. So I want you to remember that you need to get carbohydrates in your diet. And the best way to do this, eat beans, eat fruit, eat vegetables, eat grains, eat that stuff. It's good for you. Go to the store, buy it off the shelf, take it home, prepare it with your own bare hands. You don't need, if most of what you eat is coming out of some industrial factory, some food manufacturer, okay, you're putting your health at risk. You have a poor diet. I'm just gonna say it. Your dietary habits are poor. If most of what you eat is coming from a factory somewhere, that's not a great diet. If a lot of what you eat is coming from a fast food joint, that is not that stuff is ultra processed as well. When you go out to a fast food joint and you get a meal, that stuff is highly processed. So you want to cut down on that stuff. It does not mean that you can never have that stuff. I always tell people, this is not to say that you can never indulge in a donut, or you can never go and have, a burger at a burger joint or something like that, or have a pizza. That's not the point. The point is simply, it's really about proportions and frequency. How often are you eating that kind of stuff, right? And then what quantities are you eating? Those are the questions. You don't want to get carried away. Make sure that your diet is mostly real food, okay? So let's go back to carbs. Get real carbohydrates, okay? Real carbohydrates, not ultra processed slop. Real carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains. That's what you want to get. Now, with that said, I made a whole program, and it's called Overcome a Poor Diet, and you can go and you can download this document. It's a very short document, but there are 4 challenges that you can go and say. What is it? Clean fruit, salad, and the water challenge. Yes. So those are the 4 challenges. So you can go and try those 4 challenges. Each one is 2 weeks, and it just gets you to upgrade your diet in one small way. And it's just for 2 weeks at a time. So if you take the water challenge, you just take it for 2 weeks. You're going to be drinking just like almost mostly water for the next 2 weeks, right? That's the challenge. So you're going to cut out a bunch of like soda pop and all that ultra processed, fruit juices and all that. Just cut all that out. You're just going to drink water, and you're going to see if you can make it through 2 weeks just drinking water. And I want you to note how it makes you feel. Okay. How it makes you feel. And the idea here is simply to prove to yourself that you don't need all that ultra processed stuff all the time. Like, you can live without that stuff, right? Okay, if you take the salad challenge, that's a different challenge. If you take the clean challenge, that's another challenge. If you take the fruit challenge, that's another challenge. But you can go download that, try it out for yourself. I also have a coaching program that's actually built around that. If you need to be walked through it, which obviously is going to be a much higher level of instruction and guidance. But if you just want to download the document for free and try it on your own, you can do that. So with that said, just wanted to let you know, carbs, no, they're not bad for you. Carbs are not bad for you. They are a macronutrient. Carbohydrates are one of the 3 macronutrients, including protein and fat, that your body needs. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to get out of here. This has been Mark Johnson, your fitness ambassador from Bounce Pep and the youngest son of Bill Johnson. Go and download Overcome a Poor Diet. Give it a try. Take the challenge. All right, talk to you next time.